What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Barnes Brothers College Football Show. I am your host, Jared Barnes, and let's just bring in my co-host, my brother, JT Barnes. How you doing today, JT?
Good. Glad to be back for another week. Really excited to
Hey,
break these down. Good first week of college football. Good first week. Some great takes here.
yes, bro. It started very hot on Thursday night with the Pitt Panthers and WVU Mountaineers, and then going into the weekend, we got some massive news. So let's start there with the headlines of the week. And the biggest news of the entire weekend was that the College Football Playoff Committee agreed to expand to a 12-team playoff starting in 2026. Now, this is something that could happen, much sooner. They said it could happen as early as 2024, but there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that have to be done for that to happen. The SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, is very, very skeptical that it won't happen until 2026. But my biggest question is, now that we know we are getting an expanded playoffs and we know we're kind of heading towards super conferences, what will these playoffs look like? Will it be 12 at large bids? Because that's what I think it should be, because it's starting to look like conferences might not matter here in 2 to 3 years. Or will it be conference winners are guaranteed so that college football can try to save the conferences that are still a thing, like the Power Five conferences in the Big 12, the Pac 12, and the ACC, because those conferences within the next 4 years could become obsolete. I think the route that they should go is 12 at large bids, but this was massive news this weekend, and I'm very excited for it. How do you feel about it?
I can agree. I think it should be at large bids here, especially with everything happening with the breakdowns of each conference. It looks like it's about to be a complete spread out show, one big thing, really. Maybe two at most. You got the FBS lower teams out of the Power Five. I think this could be really big for them coming into a 12 team playoff. I think it could be huge for them. I think they're definitely going to be able to get more bids at the lower end, of course. But the teams from the SEC, higher teams from the ACC, Big Ten's going to look great for this. Those teams in the Big Ten, SEC, they're going to run this show.
Yeah, no, it's the way the Big Ten and the SEC are just kind of colliding at this point. Like the mega deal happened where the Big Ten signed a massive media rights deal with CBS, NBC, and Fox. And then all SEC now has is ESPN, which is great. But you have three networks competing against one. You have one defensive conference that's kind of meant kind of known to be the little brother of the SEC, going out and getting the LA market. And then before that, you had the SEC going out and getting Texas and Oklahoma, two absolute blue bloods of college football. I think the 12 at large bids are going to have to be a thing, because there's probably going to be four, maybe five teams from each the Big Ten and the SEC that are worth a playoff spot. And then when you look at the ACC, what are you going to have? Clemson, the Pitt Panthers, and then what are you going to have at the Pac-12? Utah, who just lost this weekend to Florida. There's not a whole lot of intrigue with the Pac-12. The Big 12 is going to have nobody in a few years. I mean, Cincinnati and Houston are moving into the Big 12 in
And those two
2024.
teams,
They're talented, but they're not teams that make up for the losses of Texas and Oklahoma.
yeah, that's replacing them with two little trash cans hiding in a corner. I think it's just going to be, if I'm going to be honest, that's really what it looks like. But with both of those teams probably hopping in there, you don't really have much. Pac-12, if USC goes on the uprise here, you're going to have them. Utah, which was a
But
disgrace this weekend.
but in 2 years, USC's leaving.
Exactly. So it's really going to come down to this at-large bid. I'm hoping that it's going to be all that we hope for, but I guess we'll see, huh? But
Yeah.
you got a little issue there, buddy.
Hold on real quick. Oh, I forgot there's a test of the critical alerts going on my campus right now, And I honestly forgot that it started. It was supposed to hit at about 6 o'clock. So I apologize to everybody watching for the flashing lights. Um, Forgive me. I honestly forgot. I just got completely derailed by it. But let's be honest. Even though I'll be a professional. I'll just get right back to the show. Even though the college football playoffs is expanding, the same teams are going to win it. They're going to continue to be in it. They're going to continue to win it, and that's just how I feel.
One of those teams, going in right to our second point here, Georgia. What a show they put on against the Oregon Ducks. Absolutely stomped them into the ground. Bo Nix looked like garbage. Should have stayed in the SEC. Would have been better at Auburn there. But man, Georgia looked phenomenal. Stetson Bennett came out with a great week one. They just looked strong. They looked like they didn't really miss a step. I mean, they had a few key weapons that graduated and went on to the NFL, and they just kept on chugging. I'm really excited to see what they do. Me being an Alabama fan, thank goodness they're on the east side and that we won't have to worry about them until the conference championship. But wow, they outdid themselves this week. Just steamrolled Oregon. Not to mention they had more penalties and penalty yard loss than Oregon. Um, I just don't know how Oregon just let them do that to him. That was embarrassing. That was
Yeah.
embarrassing. Pac-12, not a good look. Not a good look at all.
And this was a game that Oregon had to perform well in because as of right now, Oregon does not see themselves possibly in one of those super conferences, and they had a rough offseason. They did not get invited to the Big Ten, and that was one of the last things to happen bad to them. Mario Cristobal up and left them to go to Miami. But Oregon, this was not a good game for them. Getting beat by 46 points was not good, especially because Georgia had, you said they had a lot of key players move on. Bro, they had 15 players get drafted after winning the national championship last year. But it doesn't matter because Stetson Bennett's back. He's a dog. All
He
right.
is. He
Brock
is.
Bowers was a freshman last year at tight end. He's one of the best, if not the best tight end in the nation. And even though they lost all these key defenders, one of the best defensive players on their team last year in defensive tackle, Jalen Carter, is returning. And I don't know if you saw the clip or the dude that is 6'7" and 270 pounds that is playing tight end for them. And he wears number 0. His name's Darnell Washington.
Beast.
He's terrifying. He's terrifying because he's a massive individual. Now he's not as big as that Baylor tight end from a few years ago that was maybe 400 pounds if you remember him.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he's not that big, but he's a monster of a human being. Now in this game, the Georgia defense didn't look as sharp as they had last year. Last year, the Georgia defense was extremely dominant, and for I can't remember. I think they go on a run of a few games where they didn't allow any points.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, just to stop you real quick there, you got to think, this is Kirby Smart. Defensive
Yes.
mind, what a great coach he is. And he's more of a defense coach than he's an offensive coach. So I think he's going to get them into shape by at least week 4, week 5. You're going to see that again.
And
They're going to play great. They're going to start shutting teams out. And that offense, that's what Georgia struggled with in the past. I think they finally got to that point where, hey, we're over the hump. We can start chugging along like a massive freight hauler train and just start blasting through teams with 50-plus points every single week.
And that's what they would need to do because the defense didn't even get a sack against Oregon. And they allowed Oregon to drive 35 yards on 4 of Oregon's 9 possessions. But they didn't allow any big plays, which is very, very key for the Georgia defense. They did very well. And they put up a lot of points. But another top team in the country this weekend did not put up a lot of points, and they won very ugly. And their head coach said that after they won versus Notre Dame, this is Ryan Day, that they Buckeyes needed this ugly win. And to be honest, I agree with him because no one else in the country is going to be able to hold C.J. Stroud and that offense under 21 points in 4 quarters until maybe the playoffs. And Ohio State normally doesn't get tested like this until the playoffs. So this is something that is extremely good, especially if they want to try to chase after a championship this year because they know what kind of caliber of a team and defense they'll have to play in the big games to win the big game.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame, don't count them out. Just change topic a little bit.
I'm going to count them
Don't
out.
count. Don't count Notre Dame
I'm
out
going to
though.
count them out.
Listen, too bad it's not 2026, right? Because if it was, they're going to be in the college football playoff. But I don't know about this year. I think they had a rough first week, and they were the ones leading at halftime. And I think they're going to have a really good season. I'm not going to say they're going to go undefeated from this point, but just to hold the Buckeyes to only 21 points with that high caliber offense was very impressive.
Yes.
Obviously, it's week one.
Yes.
You're going to have slip ups. You're going to have bad plays. Ohio State, I think this, like Ryan Day said, hey, an ugly win was needed. They're going to get over this hump. Still a good week for both teams. Both need to improve a lot, but that was something no one expected. I mean, to only win, what was it, 21-10? I mean, a low-scoring affair with a high-powered Ohio State offense, new head coach over there at Notre Dame. I think it's just going to be both teams are going to rally. They're going to get better week after week. Notre Dame obviously probably out from the college football playoffs at this point after a week one loss, which is sad to say.
Yeah, you can't. To make it in the college football playoffs, if you're Notre Dame, without being in a conference, you have to go undefeated pretty much. So, yeah. I mean, a loss to Ohio State on a resume technically is what the college football playoffs would deem as a good loss. But
yeah,
is any loss a good loss?
Well, when you're an independent, you can't have that at all.
No, you can't.
I wish they would have extended it a little bit with the ACC. I liked what they did. They made it into the college football playoff their first year, I believe. They were only in there for what, 1 year, 2 years?
Who was that?
Notre Dame. Didn't they join the ACC for like 1 year?
Yeah, they joined the ACC during COVID.
Yeah.
And then they played in the ACC championship game versus Clemson, and I do believe that was the year that they made it. So. Yeah. I can't remember because they beat Clemson that year because Trevor didn't play because DJ played for Trevor, and DJ played well, about the only game he's played well in his college career. And I know you love DJ, so I got to take shots.
But that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down, man. But hey, Notre Dame, Ohio State, two great teams. Love to see the great start. Both room to improve, but staying in the Big Ten, Cade McNamara, quarterback in the battle for the starting job in Michigan, played. The team played average against Colorado State. He had a good game overall.
They won. They won by a lot of points, though. They won by a lot of points.
But I mean, it's Colorado. Gotta remember State. That. It's Colorado State.
I mean, you said it.
So it's Colorado State. It was, in my opinion, an average win. I can't believe he said he's not expecting a battle coming into week 3. Because J.J. McCarthy's going to have a good game next week, I guarantee it. The only thing that Cade McNamara needs to worry about is J.J. McCarthy's mobile. That's such a huge thing when it comes to that battle up there in Michigan. It's going to be interesting, but I guess we'll see what happens. Week 2 is going to roll out. By the time we put out another episode, we'll be able to figure out probably who's going to be the starting QB.
I think we already know who's going to be the starting QB. And McNamara, he went 8 for – let me double check this real quick. He went 8 for 18, all right? But we all saw the highlight play of Roman Wilson taking a screen 61 yards to the house, a screen pass. McNamara threw that ball so he gets those passing yards. So outside of that 61-yard screen, he went 7 of 17 for 75 yards. Not good. He got sacked. And he had negative yards rushing. J.J. McCarthy came in later in the game. Went, I think it was 3 of 3 or 4 for 4 for 30 yards and had 50 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. The mobility of McCarthy is going to help propel the offense of Michigan to where they need to be able to compete with Ohio State every single year. They beat Ohio State last year through the legs of Haskins. Haskins is no longer there. They have to be able to run against Ohio State to beat them because they have to shorten the clock. Everybody knows if McNamara is the starting quarterback, the run game is going to have to come through strictly the running back. If McCarthy's in the backfield, you have to have the threat of a read option and an RPO play where he can throw it over He could just throw it over your safety because you're nervous that he's going to run the ball because he is very good when he does that. So with that being said, I think it's going to be McCarthy. We talked about it last week. We said the same thing. McNamara performed averagely. He said that this was his best camp, which it very might have well could be, but that doesn't mean that the coach still shouldn't have a starting like
And when you have a guy
quarterback
like
competition, especially when you have a guy like McCarthy.
exactly, that's what I was about to say. That mobility, it's just gonna. I can't believe he's not expecting a battle. I don't know where he's coming from. JJ McCarthy, he's that guy. I mean, what a great recruit he was for Michigan. Thank goodness they pulled him. He's going to be big. And with that RPO going against defenses, they have to respect it. You know, those safeties are going to play up. They're going to expect the run. He's not going to run it. Just tossed over your head. They start playing back off. He's going to either hand it off or he's just going to take off. And that's going to be 10, 20 plus yards. And they're just going to drive and drive and drive. And Cade McNamara just doesn't have that in him.
Yes.
No
Michigan's offense has always had a quarterback at the level of McNamara because they've always had a guy that's not really mobile. He's a pocket passer. And Michigan's offense, ever since Harbaugh got there, is always seemingly disappointed. The only time I've ever seen in my personal life a Harbaugh offense succeed was with Andrew Luck at Stanford, but it's Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Luck's that guy.
And then with Colin Kaepernick in the NFL.
Mobile guy.
A mobile guy.
Big. Yeah.
So with that being said, I expect McCarthy to win. McCarthy is a star quarterback in college football. But just because you're a star quarterback in college football does not mean that you can't break the rules on campus. There's some things you still have to follow, and that leads us to Quinn Ewers' car getting towed during the season opening game versus the University of Louisiana Monroe. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're a star quarterback making more money than the guy that's probably towing your car, especially when the car is probably worth more than the guy that's towing your car's year's salary, because Quinn Ewers' car is an Aston Martin. Quinn Ewers makes quite a bit of money with NIL, obviously, because he drives an Aston Martin, okay?
And he goes to Texas, which they just like to give everybody money.
Yes. But if even though you're a star quarterback, do not forget to just pay attention to the campus parking laws so your car doesn't get towed. He won't have that problem next week because I do believe they are going to be at Tuscaloosa, correct?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, regardless, they're just going to get ran home anyways.
No, they're actually going to be home, so hopefully...
okay, well, he's going to want to run back to his dorm room.
Yeah, he's going to... Yeah, exactly. So, with that being said, shout out Quinn for getting his car code. Towed. Jeez, can't talk. Shout out Quinn for getting his car towed. But next time, let's just give quarterback one a spot, maybe in the parking lot, reserve spot for him. I'm sure the head coach has that. I'm sure Sarkisian has that. Quinn, he's driving an Aston Martin. Give him a reserve spot. I mean, come on. I mean,
if the guy's driving an Aston Martin, he's that guy. I mean, he's probably driving a better car than Steve Sarkisian is, and he's probably maybe making more money with all these NIL deals. But hey, NIL, oil money doesn't run out. That's all I gotta say.
No,
it
doesn't.
Money does not run out.
It does not. It does not. And yeah, it was an awesome weekend of college football, though. Quinn Ewers did start slow. I'm not gonna lie. But he played decent. Listen, it was his first collegiate game ever. He's gonna improve, but I'm sure that was a pretty disappointing thing after you got out of the game.
Nice thing is,
just not there.
There's a little transfer from the Big 10 to the Big 12. He saw way better defense over there, so I think he's gonna gradually get into it.
He'll do well.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go to my takeaways from the week. First off, Miami looking good, even though they played a cakewalk team, looking really good. I think they're going to be a little bit of a contender in the ACC this year. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think
they can. I think you're wrong, but I think it could be Miami. Those are going to be the two top runners in the Coastal Division. So Miami, though, looked really well.
They did look very well. Who'd they play? Furman?
I couldn't even tell you, man.
Come on now. Yeah, I mean, Pitt played West Virginia. It was a rivalry game.
And they almost lost.
But it's a rivalry. It's not Furman.
Regardless, Miami, they put up 70 points. You have Miami, gets dogged on by cakewalk teams the past few years, what we've seen. It could be a
Nah, not
cakewalk
really.
team.
They've been all right.
You're crazy.
They've been all right.
They're like 6-6 average the past few years because how garbage they are and how they don't know how to play as a team.
Yeah, they got Cristobal. They got Cristobal now. That's all right.
So it's really big for them.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go right into my second take. USC. You could listen to the show last week. What I had to say about them, I think I was wrong. They also played
You're
Rice.
a believer now, huh?
They also played Rice. Listen. They have great players. They played Rice though. Offensively, they looked phenomenal. Are we surprised? You got Caleb Williams at the helm. Don't be surprised. And defensively, even though they played Rice, that was one of the best defensive performances I've seen from a Pac-12 team
from a Lincoln Riley team.
From a Lincoln Riley team, especially. A Pac-12 Lincoln Riley defense doesn't make sense. And that defense did make sense. 2 pick sixes. I think they got a few more turnovers than just that. Huge win for them. I was very impressed. USC,
I was as well.
USC, after what I saw from Utah, after what I saw from Oregon, put them up there for the Pac-12, conference champion, because I don't see those two teams how garbage they looked this weekend.
Well, no, Utah played all right.
They played an unranked Florida team.
Yeah, but Florida's going to be good this year.
Yeah, but they're not going to compete in the SEC for a championship.
Well, you got Georgia and Bama. Good luck.
Yeah, and you got Kentucky, which that's going to make a heck of a game
this weekend.
Exactly. But to my third point, SEC looking really strong in both the East and West. Florida, one of those teams. Georgia and Bama obviously look like they're about to run away with it because they're Georgia and Bama. But don't count out Florida. They played amazing this weekend. Richardson, heck of a game. Great ball player. You got Kentucky coming up. That's a little bit of a test. A much better team than Utah, in my opinion. A lot of people would disagree with me on that one. Kentucky defense, much better than the Utah defense. They're going to be able to contain a little bit. I mean, it's SEC on SEC in the East. I think they're going to play a lot better. I think Florida's going to have their first true test of the season. They're going to have multiple tests after that. But the SEC looking really strong. Texas A&M, only a 31-0 win over a cakewalk FCS school. But still, I think Texas A&M, Bama, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, all good teams to watch. Coming in, Arkansas with another win. Those are all good teams that the SEC is now making happen, and they're going to all progress year after year. We'll see what happens in the future with these conferences, but for them, I think they're just going to keep progressing because they're in the SEC.
Yes, and even Arkansas played very well versus Cincinnati, but you brought up a guy, and this brings me to my first takeaway. Anthony Richardson is a difference maker, bro. He's a difference maker for Florida. Billy Napier, their head coach, he said this after the game. He said, my wife could call plays with that guy quarterback. That's what he said to the media.
I didn't even hear that one.
And I about died laughing.
Listen, he's probably right.
It is an honor for Anthony Richardson to be wearing number 15 anyways. He lived up to the hype this weekend. He had 274 total yards. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. Highlight play after highlight play. 168 of his yards were passing. 106 of those were rushing. He was a difference maker. He's the reason they won versus Utah. I love him.
Exactly. Hey,
book him for New York right now.
I calmed down on that one. But that was a number 7 Utah team coming into the season. Had a great offseason.
A team that was a possible Cinderella team to make the college football playoffs in the preseason.
Everybody had them. I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of professionals had them going the entire way to the college football playoff.
Well, ask Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'd say that to his face right now. But, I mean, Utah.
I mean, he had Pitt. He had Pitt. Team. Hey, I love Pitt, but he had Pitt in the college football playoffs. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and whoever wants to rise to the occasion. But
yeah, Yeah. And that brings me to my next point, actually. The takeaway from my second biggest takeaway from this weekend, the same teams that we're used to seeing every year in the playoffs will likely be there again this year. That Georgia game, if you watched it, you see Georgia, you're like, well, I don't see anybody in the SEC East beating them. They don't play Bama till the SEC championship game. They'll probably go undefeated in the regular season, either win the SEC championship or lose in the SEC championship. Either way, it don't matter. They're probably going to make the playoffs.
And probably meet Bama right back in the championship if Ohio State, unless Ohio State has something to say with it. But
Bryce Young, a dog, former Heisman winner, last year's Heisman winner, the best quarterback in the nation by far. He's still at Bama. So Will Anderson, still at Bama. So Bama's going to be back because they got one of the best offensive players and the best defensive player in the entire landscape of college football.
And a really good young wide receiving core.
Yes.
But Bryce Young, I got to say this, a little disappointing in the first half. Yes, they were up 41-0.
It's week one, bro.
It is week one.
You sound like Nick Saban.
But he was sailing the ball. Nick Saban actually was pretty pleased with it. I was not. I mean, Bryce Young was just sailing the ball a little far. 3 passes, they were down, about to score a touchdown, sailed the ball far, threw one short, could have had that. Listen, happy with the win. Let's move on. Let's get into week 2. Let's stomp on Texas, break the horns off, and go back home.
Well, Ohio State, a team that normally makes it every year, they were only held to 21, but they proved that they can fight and scrape their way to a win in a physical game, even if their star offensive player in Jackson Smith-Njigba isn't on the field because he got hurt early, and they still won without him. So, like, those 3 teams right there proved a lot to me this weekend. But there's a team in the FCS, and this brings me to my third takeaway from the weekend. Coached by prime time, dude. Jackson State is going to be a problem for FCS teams this year. They destroyed Florida A&M. Made them look like they were playing a D2 school, bro. And last week, Florida A&M played in week 0 versus North Carolina, missing 20-plus guys and competed. And Jackson State made them look like a dumpster fire program. Yeah. They embarrassed Florida A&M.
That's an understatement. It's an understatement.
59-3 was the final score of that game versus Florida A&M. And they got a primetime junior at quarterback. That's what I'm going to start calling him because Shedeur Sanders is a monster. He could be a starter almost anywhere in the country at quarterback. He could go to LSU right now.
Oh, they need him.
They need him. They need him. Jaden Daniels is not that guy.
That whole LSU offenses, they aren't those guys.
No.
Seriously.
No. And he finished the game 29-33, 323 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Was slinging it, dropping balls into buckets. I was extremely impressed by him, but he's not the only player on the team that's an animal. They got a guy on the defensive side of the football who's a true freshman. Everybody knows about him because he was supposed to go to Florida State. He left. He's supposed to he could start anywhere in the country if he wanted to. His name's Travis Hunter. He's a shutdown corner as a true freshman with NFL size, and he has room to grow still. He was recently injured and in a boot, and Deion Sanders said after the game that he was only playing at about 60% of his ability, and he shut down an entire side of the field by himself. Florida A&M only threw to him and his side of the field 2 times in the game, and Travis Hunter put a hand on the ball both times and broke up the pass. He impressed me so well. Like, I was so impressed by Travis Hunter, and I'm so glad that he's playing like that at Jackson State because Jackson State's a very interesting story because Deion Sanders could, at this point, he could leave Jackson State, and he's not going to. I think Deion Sanders is going to stick this out because he wants to prove something. He wants to prove he could take an HBCU and make them a dominant powerhouse team because HBCUs aren't really known for that. And if I expect big things out of Jackson State this year, I expect them to really, really compete in the playoffs because Travis Hunter not enough people have mentioned it. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying Travis Hunter needs to transfer right now. Nah. Travis Hunter could be the most dominant player in FCS history. The scouts are going to see him. They're not going to care where you play. It's just, do you have that NFL ability? And he does.
Not to mention,
He's not playing
that's
fully.
on the defensive.
Yeah.
That's on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
Imagine if he played on the offense too. He would make
Because he
corners.
can.
Exactly. He's an all-around threat.
When he's fully healthy, if he plays on the offensive side of the ball, Jackson State can win the FCS championship easily. Easily. I don't know a whole lot about FCS outside of Jackson State, though, to be honest with you.
Oh, they're just going to run the FCS this year, and I can
Yeah.
see them win the national championship in the FCS.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and that brings me to my my next point, actually, about talking about Jackson State. My players and coaches of the week this week. My coach of the week is Deion Sanders. Listen, Deion Sanders had a really rough week leading up to this game. Deion Sanders lost his I do believe it was his grandma. Shout out to Deion for coaching. Shout out to the players for playing for Deion like that. But what Deion has done in his time at Jackson State, taking a program like Jackson State and in 2 to 3 years making them a team to be reckoned with. I'd like to see Jackson State playing some teams in the FBS because I think that they could run through a lot of those teams, to be honest.
Sure.
I don't think they could beat like the big dogs like Bama, Ohio State, and Georgia. But
those are top dogs.
Yeah, if you line them up against Iowa, North Carolina, like I think they're going to beat them.
I think even Utah after the
I don't know about Utah, but we'll see. I'm just hoping that Jackson State can go on and compete in the FCS playoffs this year. And then my player of the week, it's an odd one. He doesn't play on the offensive side of the football.
For the
He
brand.
doesn't play on the defensive side of the football. For the brand. You got that right. Tory Taylor, the punter for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He had 10 punts this weekend. It was a terrible game. If you watched it, I'm so sorry. If you're an Iowa fan, congrats on getting a win. Your offense sucks. Your defense scored more points than your offense somehow. But Tory Taylor punted the ball 10 times, all right? Listen to this. He punted for 479 total yards. That's an average of 47.9 if you're good with math. It's 10 punts, buddy. So it's fairly easy. Not a lot of people are good at math, though, JT. He had 7 punts inside the 20-yard line, which led Iowa's defense to score 2 safeties off South Dakota State's offense. He helped them do that, and he helped Iowa with a 7-3 win. If Iowa wants to win any games this year, Tory Taylor's probably going to have to land every punt inside the 5-yard line with the way their offense looked. But shout out Tory Taylor for being that dude this weekend. Now, I'd like to give credit to South Dakota State's punter because he also punted very well, just not as good as Tory Taylor. And I, to be honest, forgot his name. But shout out to that guy because South Dakota State does produce very good kickers and punters via Adam Vinatieri.
That's a good point. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go into my players of the week. You started off with Deion Sanders. I gotta go Ryan Day, even though he said it was an ugly win. I still think he rallied his team in the second half, down 10-7, morale low for sure. And
they lost their best offensive player in the first half.
And exactly. They wore down the Irish. They wore them down, scraped away, just kept knocking at the door, won it 21-10. That's what a good coach does. He prevails in tough situations. He gets his team, gets them right. Not much you can say about how they played because it wasn't anything special besides them just wearing down the Irish. Great win for Ryan Day. Let's improve now, but still very, very good win. That has to be my coach of the week. There's no doubt about it. And then I'm going to have to go, Bama fan over here, but I got to go Stetson Bennett, player of the week. Coming in against Oregon, he had a great game, man. He had 3 incompletions all game. 3. No interceptions. He had 368 through the air, 2 touchdowns in the air, and then he also had a touchdown on the ground with a few rushing yards. He's looking great. Good thing JT Daniels transferred because he would not even be seeing the field. He wouldn't even look at it until it's garbage time in the fourth quarter, maybe even third quarter with some of the opponents they're going to be playing this year. But what a great game for Stetson Bennett. Hate to give him the credit, but man, really impressed, especially against a number 11 ranked team in the country. Might have been a little high for Oregon, but great week 1 performance. Don't count him out for the Heisman. No, you disagree. But don't count him
I
out for the
don't.
Heisman.
I don't.
Don't count him out for the Heisman because he can be and will be that guy for Georgia this year. And if anybody's going to win them a championship, just like he did last year, he's going to do it this year. Stetson Bennett.
Oh, you're saying they're going to win a championship?
No, he can rally them there.
Bama
he can
fan
rally
just took
them
a
there.
dump on the Bama. Oh, jeez.
Listen, he can rally them there. Bama's just going to cakewalk him in the SEC championship.
How
49
bad
zip.
How bad did that hurt you saying that out loud? That Georgia's good.
Listen,
how bad does that hurt you?
I love Kirby Smart. He coached Bama. Georgia's on the East. They're not in the West. They're not Auburn. They're Georgia.
You're struggling right now. I can tell you're having a hard time with this.
Kirby Smart is a heck of a coach. I have nothing but respect for him. I'm glad he's doing what he's doing now. Georgia, they're going to have a great year. I can't deny it. Nobody can deny that. So looking forward to what they do. Stetson Bennett leading that offense. Kirby Smart leading that defense. There's not that one-name guy because Kirby Smart is just going to, get that defense right. Like you said, it wasn't that impressive by that defense, but yet they only held him to 3 points. Looking forward to what they do this year.
Yep. And you mentioned JT Daniels, USC transfer. He's a guy you're following. But there's a couple guys I'm following, but let's hear about how JT Daniels performed. I'm very excited. JT Daniels had a rough go, didn't he?
I don't believe so, personally.
I feel like JT Daniels had a rough go.
According to everybody, that Pitt defense, especially that defensive line, is something else, right?
It's supposed to be.
JT Daniels had a really good week, in my opinion.
For a
week one with a new team.
He lost.
Look at it. Go back and watch it. Look at his wide receivers. Number 13, garbage. What's he doing? Catch the ball. Put me out there. I'll cook someone up. At least I have hands. That guy couldn't catch a thing. It was bad. Ford Wheaton.
Well, hold on.
Out of his mind.
I actually got a question for you. I hate to derail the show here, but you're kind of bashing that guy, right? But it brings up a topic to my mind, and I'm gonna take this off real quick because I got a question for you. So I don't know. I've been thinking lately. Is it okay to bash college athletes more than normal now that they're getting paid a bunch of money?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
listen, they're all
people
getting paid,
don't agree
basically.
People don't agree with me on that. Not everybody's getting paid, but some of these guys are making millions. And some people on Twitter are like, "Oh, we shouldn't bash them. They're students. They're still going to classes." Bro, CJ Stroud gave a $500 gift card to Express to everybody on his roster so that they could go get a suit for the Notre Dame game. $500. Do the math. There's probably 90 guys on the roster. If you do a little quick math, 9 times 5, right? That's 45. You had 2 zeros on. He gave out probably $5,000 just so these guys can go get suits.
Yeah.
That's so much money.
I mean, they're making money. We got to bash them. And listen, regardless if they're not making money, come on, pull in a ball. Number 13, don't even know what your name is. You're irrelevant at this point.
Well, next year they're going to have Rodney Gallagher. It's going to be okay.
Don't even, man. Guy's garbage. Anyways.
It's your opinion.
Played against him. No, he is.
All right. Hey, how'd JT Daniels do?
JT Daniels, 2 touchdowns to the air. Ford Wheaton looked good for him. That's going to be his number 1 guy this year. QB Sneak got sacked a good bit. I mean, he was getting rocked. And he was just getting up and still just delivering balls. One bad play. He had one really bad play. Backed up against his I think they were inside the 20 on the opposite side of the field. Backed up a little bit. Got absolutely rocked. Ball went straight up in the air. Ford Wheaton just went up. Didn't even jump full vertical and caught it at his body, not even up. That was impressive. Ford Wheaton's going to be that guy. Too bad he, Butterfingers over there, let it slip through his hands. I think he was just too big of a moment for him. But WVU definitely outplayed Pitt this week. JT Daniels at the helm. even though he may have had that interception, that was not his fault. He's going to get better and better every week.
But it
Definitely
lost
paid.
them the game.
Wasn't his fault.
But they lost the game because of it.
I know. Blame it on Ford Wheaton. Blame it on the play calling. I don't know what you want to blame it on, but it was not JT
Graham
Daniels'
Harrell
fault.
does no wrong.
Whatever, man. Anyways, definitely played better than Keaton Slovis this week. I'll go into, USC, WVU, Pitt. They're all intertwined right now, and I got to go out,
They are.
to the West Coast. Got to go to Caleb Williams. Whew. Buddy, he's just phenomenal.
Picked up right where he left off.
Looked great. He had 3 incompletions and 2 touchdowns. Also ran the ball really well. I believe he had over 60, 70 yards. 11.3 was his average on the ground per carry and in the air. Same average. Looked really great.
That's hilarious.
I know that is. Looked really great. I'm looking forward to see.
It's because they played Rice.
Dude, I don't care. It's USC, and they still won big.
Yeah, they did.
Good game. Really good game. Now we're going to intertwine back to Oklahoma here. We're going to go to Spencer Rattler. Oh, man. Not a good first half.
Bench him.
Let's calm down. Don't even know who's behind him. Probably no name.
Don't care. Doesn't matter. You can put in a left tackle. He'd probably throw less interceptions.
Struggled with 2 turnovers. And, he got the job done when it came down to the end of the day.
He played terrible.
That team rallied around him. Nobody can tell me otherwise. He's going to get better and better every week.
He's not.
Don't put him in the Heisman race.
Never.
Here's the Heisman race. Here's Spencer Rattler. You can't even see him on my screen because that's how low he is. But he has time to improve this season, and he's not going to go to the NFL after what I just saw out of week 1.
He might get undrafted.
If that's what he wants to do, that's what he can do. But I doubt he does that. He struggled week 1, but he's
going to tell me he can't compete with David Blau
from
Detroit?
He struggled week 1, and he's gonna have. If only Cleveland could pick him up, right? But he's gonna struggle week 1, But he's gonna get better and better every week. He does have to play those SEC talents, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. But he's definitely gonna struggle against these SEC teams. Besides that, that's just gonna make him a better player. It is, and I'm looking forward to see what he does. I love all your little snarky comments. I know. Don't worry. Georgia's in the East. So are they. But it's gonna be an interesting year for him. We'll see what he does. All I know is that place, South Carolina, was electric. The general was out, doing what he had to do. Too bad it wasn't the call commander, but it is what it is.
Yeah, they failed on that name for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that brings me to my guys, and I'm going to start with the guy that has no connection to Pitt, USC, or West Virginia. All right. And that's
Oklahoma.
Austin or Oklahoma. Because somehow everybody we picked has a connection to almost one of those schools.
Well, everybody I picked, but.
Yeah. And 2 of the guys I picked do. So my first guy on the list has no connection to those. And that is Western Kentucky University's quarterback, Austin Reed. Listen. 2 back-to-back weeks, he's put up very solid performances. He threw the first touchdown of the college football season. Then this week, they had to go to Hawaii. And like I said last week, he's not Bailey Zappi. He's not going to be Mike White, but he's pretty dang good. He threw for 3 touchdowns this week and also rushed for 1 in a game where the Hilltoppers stomped Hawaii. And when you think about it, the game that they played the game kicked off at 10:59 p.m. Central Time, which is where that's the time zones Western Kentucky's used to playing in. So they played in a time zone, I don't know, 5 to 6 hours away from where they're normally playing. So in their body, with their body, they played a game at 11 o'clock at night. That's late.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. Western Kentucky performed well. Austin Reed performed well. And I was very impressed with Austin this weekend in the 49-17 route that they had over Hawaii. You mentioned Caleb Williams threw 2 touchdown passes. Both of those touchdown passes were to my next guy in Jordan Addison. He played well in USC's win over Rice. Now, he is a wide receiver in Lincoln Riley offense. So the ball got spread around quite a bit. But Addison did have the most receptions and targets. He had the second most yards on the team with 54. And like I said, he had 2 receiving touchdowns, the only 2 receiving touchdowns by any Trojan this week. That's good signs for the rest of the season for him and Caleb Williams' little rapport. I liked what I saw out of Addison. He didn't do a whole lot on the stat sheet, but what he did do in the game was very impressive. His
Just
routes are
wait.
just phenomenal. Wait till they
All
have
it
to
is,
play somebody. Yeah,
exactly. Just
when they
wait.
have to play somebody where they have to use him and go to him, he's going to be dominant.
And he's going to be there every single time.
Yep, because he was there for Kenny Pickett every single time. Never failed.
Kenny Pickett's a bum, but
Well, he's going to be Steelers' future quarterback right there. I love Kenny Pickett. So,
if only we would have tanked for Bryce Young.
Kenny Pickett was replaced by Keaton Slovis. And Keaton Slovis is not Kenny Pickett. We saw that in the backyard brawl. Keaton Slovis does not have Jordan Addison. We saw that in the backyard brawl. But he did play very well. 16 to 24, 308 yards and a single touchdown, 0 turnovers, unlike JT Daniels. Very solid play. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. Got sacked a few times. That's okay. He didn't turn the ball over, though, which is a massive plus.
He played nervous, though.
And
he played nervous.
Well, it was a large crowd. Pittsburgh's biggest crowd of all time.
Over 70,000. I think 70,668. Yes. Something like that. I'm just pulling that one out of nowhere, but I think it's something like that.
I think you actually nailed the attendance with 7,668. I do believe that was the number. So that's like great recall on you because they said it about 27 times while watching that game. So
yeah,
great. I mean, good recall, but if you watch the game, they did say it a lot. So I was impressed by the players I followed. I was actually impressed by all the players you followed outside of Spencer Rattler. I will say I do think JT Daniels played all right. Like they should have probably ran the ball a lot more with 12 West Virginia because Pitt couldn't stop the guy.
Dog.
Pitt had no answers for him.
At one point, he was averaging over 10 yards a carry. He was up, I think, at one point he was averaging like 20. I think he had like 5-6 runs. He had like 110 yards. Yeah, and they're supposed to be a good defense. Listen, that's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get in the ACC, though. That's all I got to say. That's what you get in the ACC.
It's week 1, but it was a great week. Well, it's all right. It was a great week of college football. We had a lot of great games.
Not so much this week.
Not so much this week, but we got a few. A little bit of bias comes in with the first game. Number 1, Alabama is at Texas this weekend. It's a game I'm going to be watching. You're going to be watching because you're a Bama fan. You'll probably be screaming at the TV in the first quarter when Bryce Young doesn't throw for 4 touchdowns. But that's okay.
That's okay. Will throw for 4 touchdowns.
In the first quarter? I don't think so. But
I think they'll play better than they did against Utah State.
I think they might. I mean, it could be possible. It could be. But Steve Sarkisian.
But what does Nick Saban do? What does Nick Saban do?
He just produces head coaches.
He doesn't lose to his assistants.
Unless it's Jimbo Fisher.
Unless it's Kirby Smart.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher and Kirby Smart. So
that's about it.
Yeah, that's the only 2 he's ever lost to.
Yeah, but it's going to be a good game. First, second quarter might be a little slow. We might see a little bit of scoring here, a little bit of scoring there. By the second half, if Bryce Young isn't pulled by then, it's just going to be touchdown after touchdown. Bama needs to pick up their running game a little bit. I mean, they were playing a Utah State team that was blitzing out of their mind, sending 6-7 guys.
Got to play aggressive when you play Bama. You only get 1 shot.
Yeah. Can't miss your chance, man.
No, and they missed their chance.
They weren't a complete pushover. They weren't bad.
No.
I mean, they didn't score a point, but it is what it is. But moving on, talking about Pitt a few seconds ago, playing Tennessee should be a good one. I think Pitt's going to take that. Tennessee, they do have a good quarterback. Their offense is going to look pretty good. If they can play better than WVU did last week, I think this could be a ball game. I don't see them doing as well because I think Pitt's just going to come in. I mean, it's at Acrisure Stadium, so
down at the shore.
Down at the shore.
Yeah, I hate that name with a passion. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that game a lot. I think they'll play much better versus Tennessee. I don't think they're gonna make the same mistake 2 weeks in a row and not have the respect for a team coming in. But my favorite game of the weekend is Kentucky at Florida.
Will be a good one. I think Florida might take it. I'm a big Kentucky. Listen, Kentucky, they're 2-0. They're 2-0 in the Big 12. They're 2-0 in the Big 12. not well, obviously I'm not a big Kentucky guy. I'm a big Bama guy, but I'm riding with Kentucky this year a little bit because their quarterback, he's something special. I think
Will Levis, man.
if anybody's gonna lead him to, I mean, lead Kentucky to the victory against Florida and stop Richardson, even though he's not on the defensive side of the ball, he'll match up and match up and match up, and it's going to be really exciting to see what Kentucky can do. This is a true test for them. If Florida can play the way they did, I think the hype was coming in really high against Utah. Morale's high. You're playing a really big game. It's going to be televised everywhere, and they just put it to them. They had the gas pedal down, shifting through gears. I mean, they didn't miss one gear, in my opinion. They can still definitely fix up their offense a little bit, and they still played really well. So,
yeah, and the final 3 games we got are USC at Stanford. I think that'll be a fun game.
USC is just going to dominate.
Baylor played really well. This is the next game this weekend, but they played a no-name team, and they're playing BYU this weekend, not a pushover team, so going to be interesting to see how they do because Baylor was 1 play away. Well, no, Baylor won the Big 12 championship last year.
They did, yeah, over Oklahoma State, wasn't
Yeah.
it? No, that was in a bowl game.
No. That was the Big 12 championship.
They were inches from losing it, though.
And maybe the most interesting game of the weekend, a game that I wouldn't have thought was interesting before the season started, Wake Forest at Vandy, a game I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I want to see if Vandy's actually legit.
I mean, I'm not going to say they're out of this world legit, but
are they better than like 5 wins? Like
I think they're bowl game bound already. They're 2-0. I mean, they're going to have a tough go against the Wake Forest offense. I mean, Wake Forest can run it out on offense, but they're going to be able to pass the ball around. But Vandy really has impressed me. I mean, being the bottom team in the SEC, I'd even put Missouri over them before the season started. I can't do that anymore.
No,
Vandy really impressed me. I'm really looking forward to seeing this game. This one's going to be the star game to watch, if you want to say either that, Kentucky and Florida. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun week. Not as fun as last week, but I think there's still good games in the hall. Make sure you tune into them because you don't want to miss these big plays because there's going to be some big plays between those 2 games.
Nope. And yeah, that's pretty much all we got today. It's been a fun show. Looking forward to those games this weekend. I got to go because I got to pee. So hope you guys enjoyed this show. Make sure to follow on Spotify. Subscribe if you haven't liked it. See you guys next week.
Yep.
All right, I got to go.
All right.